October 28, 1944, on the blood-soaked fringes of the Hurtgen forest near the German town of Wassenach. The air tastes of cordite and wet, rotting leaves. Rain, a ceaseless, miserable drizzle, has turned the world to mud and shades of gray. It drips from the skeletal branches of shattered fir trees and slicks the rubble of what was once a stone farmhouse. Inside the ruins, Staff Sergeant Frank Keller of the 28th Infantry Division, K Company, keeps his head down. You can hear the rhythmic, metallic clatter of an MG-42, what the GIs call Hitler's buzzsaw, chewing through the tree line 200 yards away. Each burst is a visceral, tearing sound that makes the fillings in your teeth ache. Frank presses his cheek against the cold, damp stock of his M1 Garand, his knuckles white. He's been in this war long enough to know the difference between sounds. That isn't the sound of victory. It's the sound of men dying. For 2 days, they've been trying to take this miserable crossroads. 2 days of artillery, mortar fire, and close-quarters fighting that feels more like a knife fight in a dark alley than a battle. Frank's squad is down to 6 men. He can see PFC Miller, a kid from Ohio who still writes to his mother every night, huddled behind the remains of a tractor, his Browning automatic rifle resting on the rusted metal. The kid's eyes are wide, unblinking. He's seen too much, too fast. Frank catches his eye and gives a short, sharp nod. Stay down, stay smart. The gesture is a small anchor in the chaos. The order comes down the line, passed in hoarse shouts. "Second platoon, on me. We're pushing through the east side. Covering fire." It's Lieutenant Grayson, his voice already strained. Frank curses under his breath. Pushing into what? Into that meat grinder? But orders are orders. He signals to his men. The plan is simple, which means it's bound to go wrong. They are to advance through the bombed-out barn and clear the small cluster of buildings beyond it, where the last pocket of German resistance is holed up. A mix of weary Wehrmacht veterans and old men from the Volkssturm fighting for their homes with a terrifying ferocity. Frank takes a deep breath, the cold air burning his lungs. "Miller, lay it on 'em when we move. The rest of you, watch your spacing." He doesn't wait for an answer. He shoves a fresh clip into his Garand. That satisfying ping of the old one ejecting is lost in the din, and breaks cover. The world becomes a blur of motion and noise. He runs low, his boots sucking at the thick, greedy mud. Dirt and splinters kick up around him as the MG-42 traverses in their direction. You don't hear the bullet that gets you. He repeats the old mantra in his head. You don't hear it. He dives behind a low stone wall, his heart hammering against his ribs. One by one, the others follow. They made it. Phase 1. From the shell of a 2-story house, rifle fire cracks overhead. They're pinned. "Grenade," Frank yells, pulling the pin from a Mark II fragmentation grenade. He cooks it for 2 seconds, 1,000, 2,000, and lobs it in a high arc through a shattered window frame. The explosion is a dull, heavy whump, followed by a shower of plaster and wood. A single, choked-off scream. "Go, go now," he bellows. They storm the building, kicking in the splintered door. The inside smells of dust, gunpowder, and something coppery. 2 German soldiers, no older than boys, lie motionless. Another, an old man in a mismatched uniform, is slumped in a corner, his eyes open and vacant. War is a messy, undignified business. They clear the house room by room. It's empty, but the resistance isn't broken. From a reinforced cellar position across the small courtyard, the fighting continues. It's there, as they prepare for the final assault, that he sees her. Through a jagged hole in the wall, he gets a clear view of the enemy position as a mortar round illuminates the scene in a brief, ghastly flash. It's a flak 88 emplacement, its long barrel now lowered for anti-personnel use. And among the frantic figures working the gun is a woman. She wears the gray uniform of a Luftwaffenhelferin, a female Luftwaffen auxiliary. Her hair is pulled back tightly under her field cap, her face smudged with soot and grime. She moves with a practiced, desperate efficiency, hauling a heavy shell casing. For a split second, their eyes meet across the deadly space. There is no hatred in her gaze, only bone-deep exhaustion and pure animal fear. Frank feels a strange, unwelcome jolt, a flicker of something other than combat instinct. He lowers his rifle an inch. The moment is broken by the roar of the 88 firing, the shell screaming past their position and obliterating the wall they were just hiding behind. The fight isn't over, but for Staff Sergeant Frank Keller, something has irrevocably changed. The final assault is brutal and short. With supporting fire from a Sherman tank that finally rumbles up the muddy road, the German position collapses. The fight goes out of them like a deflating lung. Shouts of "Kamerad" fill the air as soldiers, young and old, emerge from the cellar, hands held high in surrender. The GIs are rough, adrenaline still coursing through their veins. They shove the prisoners against a wall, disarming them with angry efficiency. The battle is over, but the tension remains, thick and sour. Frank watches the process, his rifle held at a low ready. His mind keeps replaying that fleeting moment of eye contact. He scans the faces of the captured soldiers, and then he sees her again. She is shoved forward with the others, stumbling slightly. Her cap is gone, revealing short, blonde hair matted with dirt. A private, barely old enough to shave, yanks her arms behind her back with a force that makes her wince. She doesn't cry out, she just sets her jaw, a mask of stoic terror on her face. Frank feels that same unwelcome pang from before, stronger this time. The other GIs are starting to notice her. He hears a low whistle from someone down the line. A crude comment is muttered in English. This is the part of war that happens after the shooting stops, the ugly, predatory aftermath. Frank pushes himself off the wall and walks over. "All right, Stevens, easy does it," he says, his voice low but firm. The private, Stevens, looks up, surprised. "She's a Kraut, Sarge, a soldier." "She's a prisoner," Frank corrects him, his eyes fixed on the woman. "Treat her like one. Get her over there with the rest." He makes his tone sound official, detached, but his intervention has drawn a line. Stevens grunts and shoves her less violently toward the growing huddle of POWs. They are being herded into the remains of the barn, a temporary holding pen until the MPs can arrive to transport them to the rear. Frank watches as she is forced into the dark, crowded space. The barn is filled with dozens of male prisoners. The air is thick with the smell of sweat, fear, and unwashed bodies. There are no separate facilities, no consideration for her being a woman. She will be just another body in the darkness, surrounded by defeated, desperate men. The thought settles in his stomach like a cold stone. He has seen what happens in these collection points. He has heard the stories. Discipline is a fragile thing, especially in the dark. He can't shake the image of her face. It's not the face of a fanatic. It's the face of his younger sister, or the girl who used to work at the diner back home in Pennsylvania, just trapped on the wrong side of a world gone mad. For the next hour, he tries to put it out of his mind. He helps organize the defense of their newly won position. He checks on his men, offers a cigarette to a shaken Miller, and field dresses a wound on another soldier's arm. He does the job of a staff sergeant, but his eyes keep drifting back to the barn. He can hear the low murmur of German voices, the occasional shout from a guard. He imagines her in there, cornered and terrified. The decision forms slowly, an idea so reckless it feels like madness. It's a violation of every rule he's ever been taught: fraternization with the enemy, aiding a prisoner. It could mean a court-martial, the stockade, disgrace. Yet the alternative, doing nothing, letting the inevitable happen, feels like a different kind of failure, a betrayal of some part of himself he didn't want to lose to this war. As dusk deepens and the rain begins to fall harder, his resolve hardens. The MPs are delayed, bogged down on the muddy roads. He has a window, a small, dangerous one. Under the cover of the deepening gloom and the noise of the rain, he slips away from his post. He moves toward a less guarded section of the barn wall, a place where the timbers have been blown out. He carries a canteen of water and 2 K rations from his pack. Peering through the gap, he sees a sea of gray uniforms. He scans the shadows until he finds her, pressed into a corner, trying to make herself as small as possible. He taps softly on a loose board. Her head jerks up, eyes wide with alarm. He puts a finger to his lips. He points to himself, then to the gap in the wall, then to a dark, gaping hole in the foundation of the destroyed farmhouse nearby, a cellar entrance. He holds up the canteen. It's a pantomime of escape, a silent offer. She stares at him, her expression a mixture of disbelief and profound suspicion. Why would an enemy soldier help her? What does he want? He sees the hesitation, the fear. He knows he has only seconds before a guard patrols this way. He leans closer to the gap, his voice a barely audible whisper, a dangerous, irreversible promise breathed into the cold, wet air. Come mit mir. Come with me. She continues to stare, frozen. The sound of boots squelching in the mud grows closer. He has to know now. He has to know if she will trust him. Her decision is not made with words, but with movement. As the guard's footsteps recede around the far corner of the barn, she moves with the swift, silent grace of a hunted animal. She slips through the gap in the wall, her worn boots making no sound on the damp earth. Frank grabs her arm gently, pulling her into the deeper shadows behind a pile of rubble. For a moment, they are frozen, two ghosts in the ruins, listening to the rhythm of the rain and the distant, percussive cough of artillery. He can feel the fine tremor running through her, fear. He gives her arm a slight, reassuring squeeze before letting go. He points again toward the cellar entrance, a black maw in the earth 20 yards away. He mimes quickly and quietly. She nods, understanding dawning in her exhausted eyes. They move across the open ground in a low crouch, a short, heart-pounding dash from one patch of darkness to the next. The cellar entrance is a set of stone steps leading down into absolute blackness. It smells of damp soil, mold, and something else, the lingering scent of stored apples from a long dead autumn. Frank goes first, his garrote held ready, sweeping the darkness. He clicks on his service flashlight for a fraction of a second, the beam cutting a bright, dusty cone through the void. It's empty. Just a small, stone-walled room with a dirt floor, a few broken barrels, and shattered shelves. It is cold and damp, but it is safe, for now. He helps her down the last step. In the close confines, the reality of what he has done crashes down on him. He is alone, in a dark cellar, with an enemy soldier he has just helped escape. He gestures for her to sit on an overturned crate, then hands her the canteen and the K-ration crackers. She takes them without a word, her hands shaking slightly. She drinks the water greedily, then nibbles at the dry cracker as if it were a feast. He keeps the flashlight off, preserving the battery and the secrecy. The only light is the faint gray luminescence filtering down the stairwell. He sits on the steps, keeping watch, his rifle across his knees. The silence between them is heavy, filled with unspoken questions. He doesn't know any German beyond a few harsh commands. She likely knows as much English. He tries anyway. "Frank," he says, tapping his own chest. She looks at him, swallowing the last of the cracker. After a long pause, she points to herself. "Anya." It's the first time he has heard her voice. It's quiet, a little rough from the cold. Anya. It makes her real, more than just a uniform or a prisoner. For the next few hours, a strange, fragile truce exists in that cellar. He learns, through gestures and single words, that she is from Cologne. She points to the sky and makes the sound of an airplane, then mimics working the anti-aircraft gun, Flakhelferin. She wasn't a soldier by choice. He understands. He points to a map of the United States he has in his wallet, to a small dot in Pennsylvania. He talks about the steel mills, the green hills. He doesn't know if she understands the words, but she seems to understand the tone, the longing for a place that isn't this. It is a bizarre, disconnected conversation, a sharing of humanity in the most inhuman of places. The danger outside remains. Twice, he hears the voices of other GIs passing nearby. He freezes, holding his breath, his hand instinctively gripping his rifle. Anya shrinks back into the darkest corner of the cellar, her eyes locked on him, her fear a palpable thing in the small space. He gives her a slow, deliberate shake of his head. Stay quiet. She obeys without question. Their survival is now bound together. He is her protector. She is his secret, his crime. As the night wears on, the exhaustion of the last few days of fighting begins to claim him. His head nods, he jerks awake, his heart pounding. He cannot afford to sleep. He is on watch, not just for the Germans, but for his own side. He looks over at Anya. She has curled up on the dirt floor, using a piece of burlap sacking he found as a thin blanket. In the dim light, she looks impossibly young, her face softened by sleep, stripped of the soot and terror of the battlefield. He feels a powerful, protective instinct swell in his chest. This was the right thing to do. It had to be. The first hint of dawn is a knife's edge of pale gray at the top of the stairs. He knows he can't stay here. He has to return to his squad before he's missed, before questions are asked. He gently shakes Anya awake. Her eyes fly open in panic before she recognizes him. He holds up a finger for silence. He points to her, then to the cellar, miming that she must stay hidden. He leaves her with another packet of crackers and the rest of his water. Ich komme wieder, he whispers, dredging up a phrase he heard once, I will come back. He doesn't know if it's the right phrase, or if it's a promise he can keep. Her eyes, wide and uncertain in the gloom, follow him as he creeps up the stairs and back into the war. The secret is safe for another day, but it feels heavier now, a weight he must carry alone. The lie begins to eat at him. Over the next 2 days, Frank lives a double life. To his squad, he is Staff Sergeant Keller, steady and reliable, overseeing the fortification of their position as K Company consolidates its gains. But every spare moment is consumed by the secret in the cellar. He scavenges extra rations, claiming he lost his in the fight. He finds a discarded German blanket. He makes quick, nerve-wracking trips to the ruined farmhouse, his heart pounding with the fear of discovery each time. Every trip is a gamble. Anya is always there, a silent, grateful ghost in the darkness. Their shared moments are brief, tense exchanges of food for silent company. He is becoming her lifeline, and she is becoming his quiet confessor. He talks to her in low English, about the fighting, about his fatigue, about the faces of the men he's lost. She listens, her expression compassionate, understanding the emotion if not the words. But secrets in a war zone have a short lifespan. Men who live and fight together develop a keen sense for things that are out of place. PFC Miller is the first to notice something is off. "You okay, Sarge?" he asks one afternoon as Frank returns from one of his clandestine trips. "You seem distracted. And where are you getting all that food?" Frank brushes it off with a gruff excuse. "Just scouting the area, found some drop supplies." Miller nods, but the seed of curiosity has been planted. It's not just Miller. The other men in the squad notice his absences, his guardedness. Whispers start. A secret among soldiers is like a drop of blood in water. It attracts predators. The real trouble comes from Captain Davies. The company commander is a sharp, observant officer from Boston with a law degree from Harvard and no tolerance for sloppiness. He prides himself on running a tight ship, even in the middle of the Hurtgen nightmare. He notices the small discrepancies in the ration reports. He notices Staff Sergeant Keller, one of his best NCOs, has become withdrawn and jumpy. Davies doesn't believe in coincidences. He believes in patterns, and Frank Keller is breaking his pattern. The confrontation happens on the 3rd day. Davies calls Frank to his command post, a sandbag dugout in the cellar of another ruined building. "Keller," Davies begins, not unkindly, "I've been going over the supply logs. We're showing you as having drawn double C rations for the past 2 days. Care to explain that?" Frank's stomach clenches. He tries the same excuse. "Lost some of my pack in the assault, sir. Just catching up." Davies stares at him, his eyes unblinking. "That's not what Private Miller says. He says you've been disappearing for an hour at a time over by the old farmhouse we cleared, the one that's supposed to be empty." The captain's voice is calm, methodical, like a lawyer building a case. "What's going on, Sergeant? And don't insult my intelligence." Frank is trapped. He can lie, but Davies will just go and look for himself. He can tell the truth, but the truth is treasonous. He hesitates, his mind racing. His silence is his confession. Davies' expression hardens. "Get your rifle, Sergeant. You're going to show me what's so interesting about that farmhouse." The walk across the muddy courtyard is the longest of Frank's life. Every step is a hammer blow of dread. He knows what is about to happen. He is leading his own executioner to the scene of his crime. When they reach the cellar steps, Frank stops. "Sir, I can explain." "You can explain later," Davy says, his voice like flint. He unholsters his M1911 pistol. "After you." Frank descends into the gloom he has come to know so well. Anya is sitting on the crate, mending a tear in her uniform with a needle and thread he had found for her. She looks up, her face breaking into a brief, hopeful smile when she sees him. Then she sees Captain Davies behind him, the pistol held at his side, and the smile vanishes, replaced by pure, stark terror. She scrambles to her feet, pressing herself against the far wall. The silence in the cellar is absolute. Captain Davies takes in the scene: the German Luftwaffenhelferin, the discarded ration tins, the makeshift bed. His face is a mask of disbelief that slowly curdles into cold fury. He looks from the terrified woman to Frank, his most trusted sergeant. The betrayal is written in every line of his body. He doesn't yell. His voice is dangerously quiet. "Sergeant Keller, what in the name of God have you done?" Frank opens his mouth to speak, to explain his motive, to talk about her fear, about a moment of humanity. But the words die in his throat. He sees with sickening clarity that his reasons do not matter. He has broken the law, the articles of war. He has harbored the enemy. In the eyes of the United States Army, his compassion is a crime. Captain Davies raises his pistol, but he doesn't point at Anya. He points it at Frank. "Drop your weapon, Sergeant. You are under arrest." The world shrinks to the size of a military tribunal. Frank Keller is stripped of his rank, his rifle, and his dignity. He is confined to a guarded tent at the rear echelon, miles from the front lines he knew so well. Anya is gone. He saw her being led away by two grim-faced MPs, her hands bound. She didn't look at him. He doesn't know if it was out of fear, shame, or an attempt to protect him. He will never see her again. All that is left are the questions. The interrogations are cold and methodical. He is questioned by officers from the Judge Advocate General's Corps. They are not interested in the nuances of his morality. They are interested in facts, dates, and violations of military code. Did you knowingly harbor an enemy combatant? Yes. Did you provide her with aid and comfort in the form of food and shelter? Yes. Did you fail to report her presence to your commanding officer? Yes. His explanations about her youth, her fear, the brutality of the holding pen are met with stone-faced indifference. They are recorded in a stenographer's notes as excuses, not reasons. They twist his motives into something ugly. Was he a sympathizer? Did she offer him information? Was their relationship intimate? Each question is a subtle knife, carving away at the purity of his impulse, reframing his act of compassion as one of lust, treason, or spectacular foolishness. To them, the battlefield has no room for shades of gray. There is only duty and dereliction of duty. Frank chose the latter. Captain Davis testifies, his voice heavy with a mixture of professional anger and personal disappointment. He speaks of Frank as a first-rate NCO, a brave soldier, which only makes his transgressions seem worse, a man who knew better. Meanwhile, Anya Schmidt faces her own interrogation, this one conducted by an intelligence officer. She is no longer the frightened girl in the cellar. She is prisoner of war number 7834. They want to know what she told the American sergeant. Did she reveal troop movements, the location of artillery? Was she a plant, a honey trap sent to compromise an American NCO? Her denials are met with skepticism. Her story of a kind soldier who saved her from a worse fate is seen as a fabrication, a desperate attempt to curry favor. Her fate is sealed. She is transferred to a permanent POW camp in France, a vast, grim city of barbed wire and wooden barracks filled with thousands of other captured Germans. The momentary sanctuary of the cellar is a distant, dreamlike memory, erased by the harsh reality of captivity. Her future is a blank page, to be written by the victors. Frank's court-martial is a swift, dispassionate affair. He stands before a panel of officers, men who have sent soldiers into battle and understand the necessity of absolute discipline. His defense is simple. He saw a human being in distress and acted on instinct. He argues that his actions harmed no one and did not compromise his unit's security. But the prosecutor paints a different picture. He speaks of the precedent. What if every soldier decided for himself which rules to follow? What is compassion for the enemy led to a moment of carelessness, an ambush, the deaths of American soldiers? The argument is unassailable. An army cannot function on individual conscience. It functions on orders. Frank chose the latter. The verdict is guilty. Guilty of Article of War 81, relieving, corresponding with, or aiding the enemy. Guilty of Article of War 96, conduct to the prejudice of good order and military discipline. He is sentenced to 5 years of hard labor at the United States Disciplinary Barracks at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas. He is dishonorably discharged from the service. The name he had served with honor is now a mark of shame. As he is led away, Frank Keller does not feel like a criminal. He feels empty. He thinks of his squad, still fighting in the mud and cold of the Hurtgen. He thinks of Anya, a nameless face in a sea of prisoners. He had tried to save one person from the vast, impersonal cruelty of the war, and in doing so, he was crushed by an equally impersonal system of justice. His story becomes a cautionary tale, a whisper in the ranks about the sergeant who got soft, who let a German girl ruin him. But for Frank, locked away in the heart of a country he fought for, there is no lesson in morality. There is only the quiet, haunting memory of a whisper in the ruins, an irreversible choice, and the devastating price of a single human act in a world that had forgotten how to be human.